Russia frees American prisoner before talks with U.S. Russia released another American held on drug charges on Monday in what the Kremlin acknowledged was a goodwill gesture on the eve of talks between senior Russian and U.S. officials in Saudi Arabia. The American, Caleb Byers-Wayne, 28, was arrested on February 7 at a Moscow airport on charges of carrying a small amount of marijuana. In response to a question about Mr. Wayne's release, Dmitry S. Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, told reporters that the talks in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday would be about restoring relations between Moscow and Washington, and so certain events can be viewed in this context. It is not clear how broad the talks will be, but they will focus on the war in Ukraine. The U.S. team is led by officials that President Trump has named to negotiate an end to the war. Mr. Wayne's arrest came as U.S. and Russian officials were making the final negotiations to free Mark Fogel, an American teacher who was arrested in August 2021 on marijuana charges. Mr. Wayne's detention complicated those talks and may have delayed Mr. Fogel's release at least by a few days, according to a person briefed on the talks. In exchange for Mr. Fogel's release, the United States released Alexander Vinnik, who was serving a sentence in connection with a cryptocurrency exchange that prosecutors said had been used to launder money. But representatives of Mr. Wayne said he was not traded but released unconditionally, as Russian officials sought to remove any potential irritants with the Trump administration before talks on the war in Ukraine. Martin DeLuca and Andrew Smith, lawyers who represented Mr. Fogel, were asked to help with Mr. Wayne's case not long after he was arrested. In a statement, they credited Mr. Trump's recent diplomatic outreach with securing the release of both Mr. Fogel and Mr. Wayne. Under President Trump, we are witnessing a shift in diplomatic strategy, one that prioritizes American citizens and engages directly to resolve wrongful detentions with urgency and strength, the statement said. The release was reported earlier by the Associated Press, which identified the American as Caleb Byers. While Mr. Fogel was tried and spent years in a Russian prison, the Trump administration secured Mr. Wayne's release just 10 days after his arrest at Vnukovo International Airport. Mr. Wayne was traveling to Moscow with his Russian fiancée, Naida Mamatova. Both Ms. Mamatola and Mr. Wayne were questioned, and Mr. Wayne was taken into custody. Mr. Wayne's lawyers said he had only a small amount of medically prescribed marijuana. Still, he was charged with a drug offense that carries a potential prison sentence of up to 10 years.